Everything that you were taught about what a good leader looks like was built around someone who is not you. Let me explain. Come closer. I want you to think about the leadership training that you received, the books you read, the managers who told you to model yourself after me, or you decided to model yourself after them. The performance reviews that said you needed to be more assertive, more visible, more commanding, more of something that never quite felt like you. Here's what I want to tell you today. That wasn't feedback about your capability. That was feedback about your fit within a model that was never designed for the way you lead. Those are two completely different things. Let me tell you this, your team doesn't need that model. They need you, friend. I want to welcome you to the Quiet Mic. I'm Natasha, and this is the channel for leaders who want to lead well without pretending to be someone that they're not. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There's a lot coming that you don't want to miss. If you're not new here and you've been rocking out with me, I want to tell you thank you for coming back and make sure that you are subscribed. So if you're not, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Today, I've got three things that are actually happening when a leader tries to fit into a leadership mode that was never built for them. You see, here's what most leadership development gets wrong. It teaches leadership as a performance, as a set of behaviors to display, a way of carrying yourself that signals authority, a communication style that projects confidence, a presence that commands a room. Most of that framework was built around a very specific kind of leader, the loud, assertive, always certain, always in control, always the most visible person in the room, that type of a leader. For some people, that comes naturally. But for the quiet leader, the thoughtful leader, the leader who processes deeply and leads with intention rather than volume, that framework has spent years telling them that they were doing it all wrong. And today I'm going to talk about three things that are actually happening. So I'm not going to be here before you long. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number one, the leadership model you were taught was built for a different kind of person. Most leadership frameworks were developed in environments that rewarded a very specific set of traits. Decisiveness that looked like speed, confidence that looked like volume, authority that looked like control. Those traits became the benchmark, the standard against what every leader was measured. The problem is that those traits are not universal indicators of leadership effectiveness. Just not. They're cultural preferences that got codified into training programs and performance reviews and organizational expectations. They got repeated so many times that people started treating them as facts about what good leadership requires. Now, I want you to think about how many leaders you've watched get passed over for a promotion, not because they were not producing results, but because they were not performing leadership in the expected way. I want you to think about how many quiet, deeply capable people have sat in a performance review and been told they needed to speak up more, take up more space, be more assertive, when what they were actually doing was listening more carefully, thinking more deeply, and leading more intentionally than anybody else in the room. You see, that's not a performance gap. That's a framework gap. The framework wasn't measuring the right things. It was measuring visibility. It was measuring volume. It was measuring performance, not impact, not trust, not the quiet, steady kind of leadership that actually builds teams that last. What I've seen play out across more than 17 years of working inside organizations is this. The loudest leader in the room is rarely the most effective, but most organizations were built to reward the loudest one anyway. And that leads us to the second thing that's actually happening. Number two is that your team doesn't need the leader you were trained to be. They need you for who you are. This is the one that I really want you to sit with because I think it's the most important thing in the entire episode. You see, your team has never needed you to perform leadership. They need you to practice it. And those are two very, very different things. Performing leadership is exhausting. It requires you to constantly monitor how you're coming across. It adjusts your natural communication style to fit an expectation, to be loud when you rather be thoughtful, to project certainty when you would rather be honest about uncertainty, to take up space when your instinct is to make space for others. Whereas practicing leadership is something else entirely. It means showing up as the person that you actually are and leading deliberately from that place. It means using your natural tendency to listen as a strategic advantage, using your thoughtfulness as a tool for better decisions, using your calm as an anchor for your team when things get hard. I want you to think about what your team actually experiences when you're at your best, not when you're performing leadership the way you were taught, when you're just being yourself and leading from that place. That's when people feel heard. That's when decisions feel considered. That's when your team feels safe enough to tell you the truth. There's a leader that I'm aware of that spent years trying to lead like the managers that she was trained under. She was loud in meetings, quick with answers, always projecting certainty. Her team was polite, but they were distant. Things ran, but never quite clicked like they should. The moment that she just stopped performing and just started leading as herself, something shifted. Her team started coming to her with real problems instead of just updates. They started trusting her with the things that mattered because she finally felt like someone they could actually reach. Now, what I want you to understand from that is this: your team cannot connect with the version of you that's performing leadership. They can only connect with the version of you that's actually there. And that brings us to the third and final thing that's happening, which is this: the qualities that you've been trying to suppress are the ones that your team needs most. This is where I want to be very direct with you, friend, because I think this is the conversation that most leadership development has failed to have. The qualities that got flagged in your performance reviews, the ones that were framed as weaknesses or development areas, specifically, I'm talking about the tendency to think before you speak, the preference for listening over talking, the instinct to process internally before sharing, the discomfort with conflict for the sake of conflict, the desire to understand before deciding. Those are the things that I'm referring to. Those are not weaknesses, okay, friend? They're not weaknesses. In a team environment, those are actually the qualities that create psychological safety, build trust, and it produces the kind of thoughtful decision making that prevents expensive mistakes. They're the qualities that make people feel heard before they're directed. They're the qualities that make teams feel considered before they're managed. They're the qualities that make organizations feel led rather than just ran. The problem was never that you had those qualities. The problem was that you were being evaluated by a framework that didn't know what to do with them. So it caught them gaps, and then you believed it. I get it, right? I've watched leaders spend time and time again trying to be louder, even years trying to be louder. They were trying to be more assertive, more commanding, while their teams were quietly thriving only in the moments that the leader was just being themselves. Those were the moments when the leader was thoughtful, when the leader was present, when they were intentional. Those moments were what people remembered. Those were the moments that built loyalty. But the leader never knew because they were just too busy trying to fix what wasn't broken. But I've come to know after watching all this play out across every kind of organization and every level of leadership was this: the leadership style that you've been trying to fix is the one that your team has quietly been depending on. Now, I want to speak directly to the leader who has spent years trying to lead differently than they naturally do. You've been told in some way, shape, or form, whether it was directly or indirectly, that the way you lead isn't quite enough, that you need to be more of something, whether it's more assertive, more visible, more commanding, more of whatever the room seems to be rewarding. I want you to hear this clearly. The feedback you received was never about your capability. It was about fit within a framework that was built around a different kind of leader, a framework that measured the wrong things and caught the gap a weakness. Your team has never needed you to be louder. They've needed you to be clearer. They never needed you to be commanding. They've needed you to be more consistent. They've never needed you to take up more space. They needed you to create more of it. Okay. Those are not the same things, but only one of them is actually you. Okay, friend. The other one is a performance that you've been exhausting yourself trying to maintain. I want to tell you to stop maintaining it and start leading instead. Your team doesn't need a louder version of you. They need a clearer one. So here's what I want you to take away from today. The leader your team needs that for you to be is not the one that you were trained to perform. It's the one that you already are when you stop trying to be something else. Thoughtful, intentional, present, steady. Those qualities are not weaknesses that need to be overcome. They're the foundation of the kind of leadership that actually builds something worth building. Okay. You don't need to become a different kind of leader. You need to become a more deliberate version of the leader you already are. That's the work. That's where the real growth lives. Now, before you close this out today, because I'm not going to be here before you long, go ahead, drop a comment and tell me what's one quality that you've been told to change about your leadership style that you actually think is a strength. I really do want to know, and I do read the comments. Okay. Again, be sure to subscribe if you have not done so already. If this episode gave you something real, go ahead, share with one, two, three, however many leaders in your life that need to hear it today. Okay. And remember, the quiet ones move the room. So let your quiet speak loud. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.